So we're going to match our if, elif, else statements that we've managed here in pseudocode, and we're going to write them in Pascal. I do recommend that you look at the other videos. Pascal is going to do something that the other videos haven't done, or the other languages haven't done so far, and it's going to be using this then keyword at the end. So you can see where the pseudocode is being generated. It sort of matches, it doesn't match Python with else if because it's elif, but it does match PHP. So PHP had else if as a keyword, so that matches the pseudocode. If we were in JavaScript, then it needs a space, or Java it needs a space, so it doesn't really match the pseudocode. None of these languages ended the line with then. They all had an open curly brace. PHP was the same, but Pascal is going to have this keyword then on the end. So it's the only one of the languages that I'm looking at that uses this structure. So you can see that pseudocode is a kind of amalgamation of all the languages. It's not a language in its own right. It's just bits taken from all of them. And if you don't know where they've been generated from, then that might give you a bit of confusion. So let's nip over to Pascal and see if we can get this done quickly. So I'm going to start with the Turbo Pascal, this one. Like I said previously, there are several ways of writing it with begins and ends. I'm not going to do that with this one. I'm just going to write single line statements, just to make it a little bit clearer. I might in the Delphi version show you both. So let's start writing the else if in Pascal. Now again in Pascal we have a space between the else and the if. So if I write else, then if, and then I need to test my condition again. Else if num is equal to 5, then matching the pseudocode. Let's indent. I'm only going to indent 3. Right line num times 2. No semicolons at the end. Let's just dedent this a little bit. That's better. And my next line, else if num is equal to 4, then right line num times 4, and finally I get to my else clause, set num to 0, and then write out the number, and then pause the screen so I can see something. So that's my Turbo Pascal version. As I said, there's some strange bits and pieces with Turbo Pascal. If you took it on as a language that you would have to learn, I'm not that concerned about them at the moment. I just want you to see how this maps to the pseudocode. So save it, compile it. That was successful, and I know I've got my running program here. So there you go. The first one was set number to 6, so it matched this first one, so it wrote out 6, jumped down to this right line, wrote out 6 again, and then waited for the input. So let's now change these numbers so that we can see it working. So num is going to be 5. Don't know why I'm playing with the mouse. Num is going to be 5. Save it, compile it, and then run it. So I get 10 and 5, as I've explained in other videos. So it's 5 here. doesn't match this, so it jumps to this line, matches the 5 there, so it does 5 times 2 prints 10, and then jumps out to this line and writes 5, and then waits for a key press. So I can set it to be 4. Save it, compile it, and then run it. So I've got 16 and 4, which is what I expect. Doesn't match this line, so it jumps to this one. Doesn't match this line, so it jumps to this one. Matches this line, so it does num times 4, which is 16. Let's shrink this down a little bit. So it gives me 16. Then jumps over this and then goes to the right line num, which is 4, and then waits for the key press. Finally, if I give it a value which is pretty outrageous, that's not going to be matched by anything. Save it, compile it, run it, and I've got 0. So again, num is 25, doesn't match with this line, goes to the next else if, doesn't match with that line, doesn't match with num equals 4, so it comes to the else, sets num to 0, writes num out, and then waits for a key press, and that is Turbo Pascal.